Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I'm a labor and delivery nurse by day, and all the other times of the day I read books or talk about reading books. As you can see, since the last time I saw you, I got my hair did, and I have bangs, and I'm still adjusting to constantly having hair in my face. So I'm really sorry about the tics and things that are going to occur on this video. I feel like I need to curl them. They're in my eyeballs today. It is a struggle. I think they look so cute, but it is a struggle a little bit. October has been a great month for reading for me. It is October 29th today. I do not think I'm going to finish the physical book that I just started today, and I work the next few days. So I wanted to just get this video done. I do have an audiobook that I will probably finish tomorrow, just like on my commute in and out of work. So we'll talk about that next month. But I was planning to just rapid fire my audiobooks. I don't know if anybody else has been having this issue lately, but like I have had so many holds come like available, and it's like that seems great, right? Until you have 5 holds that you've been waiting months for that are suddenly available and don't actually fit the vibe. So if you're wondering why some of my audiobooks make no sense with the vibe, it's because they all became available. And I can't like suspend too many of them, because when you suspend them on Libby, then it's still like another 2 weeks. So it's a whole juggling act. It's been hard. It's been a real hardship. So yeah, I don't know if people are just like, oh, I'm not going to read that end of this year, and like are kicking things off their hold, or like what is happening. It's an embarrassment of riches, honestly. And then I haven't read any like Hoopla audiobooks because they have so many Libbies coming available. Hooplas are the ones that you can, like, if you stay up till midnight, you can get like whatever you want. So I was hoping to get some more like Halloween, like horror in, but with all of the Libby ones coming due, I think I read like 1 Hoopla book. I also had an Audible subscription for a few months because there was a book I needed to get for a book club that I could not get anywhere else. And so I have a couple of those credits that I had to use. Again, embarrassment of riches. So I don't even know how many audiobooks I've read, but I've read a ton of physical books. I got through my entire physical TBR, which just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. There's normally like 1 to 5 that I don't get through in a month. And part of that is just that I read other things, or like the vibes were off or something, but I got through every single book. Plus, I got a new release that came in the mail that I got to read, which I was so excited for. And I didn't know how it was going to fit into the rest of the year if I didn't read it now. And my sister sent me 2 books as book mail, and I was able to read them too. So it was just such a good month. Especially after like I feel like last month I read a bunch of duds, and like, was every book good this month? No. But we're getting things done. Oh, it makes me feel so good. Okay. I want to just get the audiobooks out of the way. So to start with, we have A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher, I believe it's a female, writes like speculative fairy tale remakes. There's normally some sort of magic, but it's not like epic fantasies, and she's a very prolific writer. So House with Good Bones is about a woman named Sam who returns to live with her mother, and her mom's acting weird, and the house is doing weird things, and there's vultures circling the house and lots of other things happening. So it's like a spooky good time, and you find out who's haunting the house, what. The next audiobook that I listened to was Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I have never read this book series. I've heard really good things about, everybody really kind of knows Practical Magic, but there's, I think, 3 other books in the series that are like prequels and sequels. I've heard those are great. I've only seen the movie a few times and not in years. So my plan was to read this book, watch the movie, And as I was reading this book, I was like, this is wildly different. Wildly different. I don't remember any of this happening. Like, I just remember, like, the husband coming back to life, but I also remembered him being a husband. Like, so many wild things. And then I went and watched the movie and was like, no, I just had no memory of any of this. So, oh my gosh, young Sandra Bullock. Wild times. It is, like, she still looks young now, but to see a Sandra Bullock who's like, what, in her 20s? Maybe 30s? Gosh, she's so young. Love it. Love it so much. It makes me want to watch Hope Floats. That one I did watch more. So I gave that 4 stars. And it was, yeah, it was good. I thought it was weird because it was so different, but after watching the movie, it was like, oh no, the movie was the same. So maybe I'll read the other books. I don't know. The Marriage Act by John Mars. I've been trying to read other books by John Mars because I read the one by him, and that was a wild time. So that's like a thriller where they use your DNA to match you up with your soulmate. And all of the things. So it's a multiple POV, like, kind of like a psychological thriller where it's like, is this good or bad? And then you see, like, all the pitfalls of it. And then the Marriage Act is like, okay, so now we've matched all these people up, and now the government is, like, inserting itself into people's marriages. Like, basically, like, through their Alexas being like, hey, we heard the way that you guys talk to each other. You need therapy. And it's just another layer of crazy. So this is like a fun thriller and an audiobook. It was good. I gave it 4 stars. And then, I guess, not an audiobook, but not a book that I physically have. I'm trying to get through Kristen Hanna's backlog. And so Between Sisters has been on my TBR for actual years. Like, some of the longest books I've had on, like, my Libby hold. And it's, like, come available multiple times, but because it was an ebook, it's not my favorite thing to read. I'm trying to get through more ebooks. This was exactly as it needed to be. So our main characters are 2 half-sisters who had a very unstable childhood. And the one sister had a dad who didn't know about her, and so when they contact him, he became her dad, and, like, the dad and the older sister have a falling out. The older sister has kind of been estranged from the younger sister for years. And now the younger sister is getting married, and the older sister is planning her wedding for her, but there's, like, a lot of bad feelings between them. So we're trying to figure that out. One of the sisters gets sick. It's just it was a good story. It was a really good story. And there's some romance in there. Like, the old Kristen Hanna books are kind of, like, Hallmarky, right? So it did exactly what it was supposed to do. I had a good time reading it. I gave it 4 stars. So because I had Audible for Project Hail Mary, it was like a free 3-month subscription. So I had more credits, so I was able to get Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man, because this was a book club book, and this was, like, months out for Libby, for both libraries that I have on my Libby app. And then Hoopla was not available at all, which is super fun. So Vera Wong is, I forget what the title of the first book is. So Amanda's, like, killed in her tea shop, and she inserts herself into the investigation, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And it's just funny. It's funny because in this book, Vera finds Instagram and becomes, like, she goes viral, and she's like, I have the virus. Like, just the things that she says, like, oh, my ass is so bad for a badass. Like, she's just absolutely ridiculous, but you can't help but love her, and she always ends up solving the crime. So it's a good time. I do like Vera Wong a lot more than Finley Donovan because Finley Donovan is stupid. Vera Wong is just out of touch, and she's just, like, older, out of touch, like, doesn't understand some of the slang that she gets involved in, but she's not stupid, where, like, Finley Donovan just makes bad decisions, and she's dumb. So that's my feelings about that. So this is a book that doesn't really fit the theme because it's a nonfiction about Johnson & Johnson, but it is spooky. It is horror. So No More Tears, The Dark Secrets of Johnson & Johnson. This book was horrifying because it talks about all of the awful things that Johnson & Johnson has like got away with because people think that they're like this beautiful baby brand. And for example, they knew that their baby powder was killing people for decades. They just were burying all of the research. So talc powder is mined in areas where asbestos is. Asbestos was in the baby powder. People were dying of ovarian cancer because they were using the powder on their nether regions. People were breathing it in and dying. And they knew about it for a long time. They also knew that erythropoietin, which is used for like dialysis patients to increase their red blood cells, they were like, let's target this to cancer patients because that sounds good. Except it was like miracle grow for the tumors. And when they knew that, they still sold it to cancer patients. I don't know if you've heard about the opioid epidemic. They were in on that. Their vaccine was killing people and they knew it. So just like lots of things. Their marketing is amazing and they seem evil. So unfortunately, working in healthcare, like I do feel like I've been affected by like all of these situations. Ritalin was another one. And like, yeah, Ritalin was pushed for patients. I've given opioids. I've worked with baby powder. I've worked with cancer, and like giving COVID vaccines. It is really disheartening, especially in this age where we no longer trust experts. And like, I do get a little bit why we don't trust experts, right? Like some of these experts are lying to us just for money. And it really sucks to get lumped into that. But I also like, this is what we're dealing with in patients, that like they are also getting this information about how you can't trust people. And yeah, I get it. And it's hard as a consumer too, because it's like, what do you trust? Who do you trust? In some things we don't know how much it's hurt people for years. And that is frustrating. So this was an amazing audiobook. I highly recommend you reading it. It was very good. I gave it 5 stars because, I mean, as horrified as I was, it was written really well. The stories were told really well. It wasn't like told as like facts and figures, like they were told as stories. It was very good. My next audiobook was Cher Part 1. So Cher's autobiography. This was very dense to start. So I'm really glad I listened to an audiobook. I don't think I would have kept reading it as a physical book. So this part 1 gets from her birth. Well, like her parents' births really, because she goes back like a few generations and explains like where she's come from to, I think we get to 1970 and it's either 70 or 80, but it's a lot of life, and it's a lot of, it's not even like big moments. Like she remembers teeny tiny moments. Like she must have like kept a diary, and then she'll be like, he gave me that ring. I still have it. He gave me a note. I still have it. So my takeaway, Cher's a hoarder. So she probably has everything she's ever owned. That's the feeling, which I do feel like she like loses homes and all sorts of things. So I don't know how she keeps track of all this stuff that she's received, but, oh gosh, I was really harsh in my rating. I gave it 2.5 stars. I don't know if I will listen to her part 2 when it comes out. Like I am interested because her life is interesting, but it's just the way that she tells it that I'm not interested in it. My last audiobook that I finished before the one I'm currently reading was Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. So I think I've read all of his books. So Tipping Point, Outliers, he has a few more. So they're nonfiction, and he basically like presents like the rule of the magic third, and then like tells stories about it. Like the way that he presents information is in story form, which is so enticing, and he's such a good storyteller. So Revenge of the Tipping Point, over stories, super spreaders, and the rise of social engineering. So some of the things that I remember talking about was how like housing developments will try to keep like people of color at less than 20%, because the rule of the magic third is if you get to like 30% or above, then like white people move out and flee and like will not come back. And you lose property value, etc. And so that's the same with like schools, and which we talk about in universities, and why they keep athletes, like why athletes get in so much more than like scholars at say Harvard, etc. So that was interesting. The super spreaders was talking about how it was like the rule of few for COVID. So not that many people actually spread COVID. There were just certain people that like super spread it. Like it was like the amount of like fluid that their body produced when they were talking just spread the COVID everywhere. So it was way more likely that just a few people spread it. But how do you police just a few people? And yeah, so things like that. It's very interesting. I love a Malcolm Gladwell book. So yeah, those were my audiobooks and ebooks. So yeah, they like, I still had some like thrillers and horror, etc., but just not, you know. Okay. So my first physical book of the month was The Possession of Elba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. So she's written The Hacienda and Vampires of El Norte. They've all been book of the months. I've loved every one of them. So this one I did give 4 stars to. It wasn't amazing, but I still really enjoyed it. So it's 1765, and Elba is in an engagement of convenience with one of her friends. And in the town that they're in, a plague is happening. So they like flee to this like mine that the family runs. And I think silver is what they mine. I'm not 1,000% sure. I should remember that. I feel like it's silver. They use mercury. Anywho. While she goes to the mine the one day, she gets like turned around and possessed. So that's fun. And she starts like doing things that she doesn't remember and wandering around. And there is a priest that's on this trip, and there is an estranged cousin who she ends up turning to. Yeah, so spooky, a little bit horrifying, just that like creepy crawly feeling, which I just kind of love for the season. So I gave that one 4 stars. And then I read Holly Jackson's first adult book, Not Quite Dead Yet. This was so good. It was so good. And honestly, like, she's got balls, this girl. The way she committed to this story. So our main character is Jet. Jet is the daughter of 2 wealthy people, and they are at like a festival for Halloween, and she comes home from it, and then she wakes up in the hospital, and somebody hit her on the back of the head real hard and jarred some things loose, and because of a condition that she was born with, she is going to die. So she could either have surgery that will, it's like 99% sure that she'll die during the surgery, or she doesn't have the surgery and then she has a week before she gets like an aneurysm and dies from that. And she chooses to live for the week and try to find her killer. And so if you know that you're going to die already, the stakes are very different, right? So she's just like plowing through this town trying to figure out who tried to murder her. And it's a good time. And it's also really sad and scary. And Holly did such a good job of, like, as it's progressing, Jet is, like, losing function as well, which just, like, hats off, man. Because I get very annoyed with people that don't, like, if the premise of the book is something medical, but then we just, like, forget about it partway through. So, like, the other thing that I love is in Robert Galbraith's, what's the next one coming out was, like, The Hallmarked Man or something. So he had an amputation because he was in the Iraqi war. And that plays into so many things because there's often times that he, like, can't make it up the stairs or his leg's hurting him. And so it's just really nice to see consistency and, like your physical disabilities. It's not just a plot point that you can use every once in a while. Like, it's something that is with the character all the time. And so this was just written really well, and I loved it so much. 5 stars. So good. Then I read Cujo by Stephen King. And I knew that it was a dog that was I thought it had to do with a dog in a car, and it sure did. So Cujo ends up with rabies. He's like this huge Saint Bernard that was a really nice dog, ends up with rabies, and through a really unfortunate turn of events, he starts attacking and killing people. And our other main character is a woman and her son who just wanted to get their car fixed, and they're trapped in their car with this evil Cujo outside the door. And I mean, Cujo's not evil, he's sick, but there's a little bit of speculative in it, like maybe it's a demon and not rabies in him. The outer story is a little random, so I would say it was like a lot of, like, weird buildup, and then, like, this much was horrifying. It fit the season. Giving that one a 4. At least I think I did. Yep, 4. It was good. And then so here's one that doesn't fit the season. Listening to the Law by Amy Coney Barrett. So I read this for the Sharon Says So book club. So Justice Barrett came and, like, spoke, and this was an interesting book. So she can't talk about, like, any active court cases, but she does explain kind of, so it's not a memoir, but she does kind of cover, like, how she became a judge, and a little bit, like, how that plays into, like, her family and everything plays into her being where she is. So there's, like, a little backstory, and then she talks about, like, how the Supreme Court, like, acts together, like, how they're just, like, humans, like, they don't really, like, yes, they have partisan beliefs, but they're not acting partisan as they're judging, and they're not, like, fighting. Like, they're not fighting about these things. They're just working through how to interpret the laws, and it was really interesting to just get, like what they're allowed to do, basically. And when they're looking at, like, old laws, then you have to do, like, deep dives on, like, what certain texts meant at the time. It was super interesting. There's no part of me that ever wants to be a lawyer or a judge, but it was really interesting to see, like, what the role of the Supreme Court is and how seriously they take their jobs, and how if we want to have better laws, we really need to go to Congress and we need to vote the right people in, because all the justices can do is interpret the law. They can't, like, enforce it. They can't make new laws. Yeah, so it was very well told. Like, honestly, like, not boring at all for how much of, like, a law book it was, and, like, nonfiction, but wild. Yeah. So I gave that one 4.25 stars. And in case you're wondering what I'm referencing here, this is my reading journal, which I've been making plans for what to do for next year. Ooh, my next read was Strange Sally Diamond. This was another 5-star. This book is a wild time, and it just, like, looks like so unassuming. So Sally Diamond had some significant trauma in her past. And she is a little bit like Amelia Bedelia as well. So very literal, which totally makes sense the more you learn about her. When her adoptive father dies, he said jokingly to her multiple times, just put me out with the trash when I die. Like, don't make a big deal of it. Well, so she does. So she attempts to burn his body with the trash. And then when she's like talking to someone, like catching up with them, and she's like, oh yeah, Tom or Ted or whatever, he died. And they're like, what? He died? Which, he was old. Like, it made sense. They're like, well, we need to have a funeral. We need to, and she's like, oh no, don't worry. I put the body out with the trash just like he wanted. So then there's an investigation. And then Sally starts learning about her past. The town learns about her past. It's on the news. So this is like way bigger. I was like so happy that I had no idea what this was about. So I'm not going to spill the rest of it. There is also another story kind of happening at the same time. There's flashbacks. This is a wild time. So Sally Diamond is a really fun character, and it's interesting to watch her like work through her trauma and relate to people while also like dealing with life. I don't know. It was just really interesting, really well written. I really, really enjoyed this one. So 5 stars. 2 5-stars in a row. So Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This is my September book of the month. And so Cleo is a daughter of divorced parents. She's estranged from her mom because her mom was a lot of a person. And she claimed their house was haunted when she was younger and wrote a book about it, which her and her sisters have not read. So her mother died and the house is left to them. So Cleo decides to take over the house and she wants to flip it. She's a social media influencer, so she's got like flexible time. And so it's like her and her sister's relationship, her relationship with her dad, kind of like uncovering the truth of what happened to her mom. And then she gets a hold of her mom's book and creepy things are happening at the house. So this was a good time. It was. Yeah, spooky, creepy, but also like light enough that it wasn't awful. So still like a very ominous ending though. I gave that one 4 stars. And then I wanted to just read something light. So I read My Roommate is a Vampire. This is one of the books that my sister sent to me. So our main character ends up adding she answers a Craigslist ad for this gorgeous apartment as a roommate. And it's like $200 a month. And she's like, are you sure it's not like $2,000 a month? Well, this vampire put his ad out. They maybe missed a zero, but he also has been asleep for 100 years, so he didn't realize that prices had gone up. And as far as I know, it kind of was still a little bit murky. He wanted a roommate so that he could like be brought up to speed with what had happened in the last 100 years, which seems like there's better ways to do that. Like maybe sit down with a vampire. Anyway, they fall in love. I'm sure you're shocked. And there's a lot of other random shit that happens too. It was just kind of delightful. So they talk to each other through like notes quite a bit. And there are some other characters that come in. He is apparently betrothed to somebody. Yeah. Just the chapters are cute. This is a cutie. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. So, if you're looking for a little fun fall romance, this could be a good one. My next book did not stay, I don't know. My next book was The 7-Year Itch. I bought this because of the sprayed edges, and I will promptly be getting rid of it. I did not like this book. I honestly think I finished it as more of a hate read than anything. this appears to be like the second in a series. Like, I think they can be standalones. I wasn't that lost. But it seems like something absolutely ridiculous happened to the first couple. And so then they're like woven all throughout here. So it's very much like, look at this couple that you love so much. And it's like, I don't like them. So I don't really want to read their book either. This book was one of those where it's like, we are so sexy. We love sexy time so much. We are going to go to a sex club and do absolutely nothing. The whole time that we're at the sex club, we're going to be like, just very territorial and then leave because we're obsessed with each other. So, yeah, it was just annoying. It was like, either go to the sex club and do sex club things or don't go to the sex club. Like, it was they talked about it all the time. They went multiple times. No one ever had sex at the sex club. It was annoying. Then they start banging. This is supposed to be enemies to lovers. Some of that story was good. For the most part, it was annoying. And there were a ton of side characters that they wanted you to be invested in, and I didn't care about them. So, if this is one of your favorite books, I'm so sorry. It was good enough for me to keep reading. But not good enough to tell people to read. And then remember how we had 2 5-star books in a row? Well, not anymore. So we followed the pattern. I gave Christine 2 stars. This is a 600-page book about an evil car that runs people down. And I would say 400 of those pages is just build up and speculation. It's just creepy feelings and nothing actually happens. And then she starts murdering people. This should have been at least cut in half. Like, I get that you need some of the ominousness. No thanks, man. I'm sorry I gave away the story. The car is killing people. There are a few more details, but that's most of it. Then I read We Used to Live Here. I feel like I've seen this cover a few times. This is a spooky book. I read this in like 2 days. It has like mixed media in it. So you have like a few chapters that are written like normally, and then there'll be like interrogations and other things in between it, which makes it read a lot faster. It's also really spooky. And then it ends very ominously. So it's like you still do not know what's happening. So our main character and her partner bought a house and they are flipping it. And one evening before her partner gets home, this family just like shows up out of the blue on the doorstep and they're like, hey, we used to live here. Can we tour your house? And she was like, I don't think so. And then she does. And then they like never leave again. And you just don't know what's going on. Like, are they bad? Is she losing her mind? Like, what's happening? Is she losing her mind? Is this really happening? What's happened in the past? Spooky. And it's like, is the house haunted? Who's having actual memories? Like, ooh. And it ends with you like not knowing what happens. So, I'm pretty sure I gave that 4 points. 4 stars. 4 stars. So that was the end of my physical TBR. And I had received Silverborn, the 4th in the Morrigan Crow series. This is an amazing junior fiction series. If you have children, you should read this and read this aloud to them. It is so good. So I turned my sisters onto this, and my sister and her 4 kids actually read this before I got to it this time, which was I wanted to read it so bad. So I read this in a few days. It's just a delight. So it's kind of like Harry Potter, but like a younger crowd. And I'm not sure how many books it's going to be, if it's 7 or 8. So the first book in the series is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. So Morrigan is born on Eventide, which is like a cursed date, and so she's supposed to like be killed. and instead she's smuggled away to a different realm where there's magic, and now she has to like navigate what's going on. And so in Nevermore, she like goes through these trials because she has like magical powers, but she doesn't know what's going on. And then in the second book, it's Wondersmith. She's finding out more about her powers. She's trying to get into this like special school, and then Halopax, and then Silverborn. So she's finding out more about her past in this book, and more about being a Wondersmith and what that all entails. So it's just so good. This one did felt a little chunkier. She's like helping to solve a murder in this one. Very good. 5 stars immediately. My last book that I read was A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. So our main character is very bad at magic, even though her mom is borderline abusive about how they have this legacy and she needs to live up to the legacy. So she tries to call forth a flower and instead calls forth a demon to trade her soul to. And he can't leave until the deal is done. So they fall in love, as one does. This was cute. It was cute. It was spicy, and there was other like plot going on at the same time. The magic was interesting. The people were interesting. And we clearly introduced multiple side characters that are probably going to be in books 2 and 3. And I think I would read them. This was cute. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars. It was just a good time. So that's my October reading. It was good. I feel like I read a lot of books. I read 20 books. Wow. Okay. And so it'll be probably 21 by tomorrow. And then for November, I wrapped up all my books and I'm going to draw out of a jar like what ones I'm reading and try to make a big dent in the physical TBR. So thanks for hanging out with me and listening to me talk about the books that I read. It was a really fun month, and I am getting geared up to, I don't know how many holiday books I'll read, but I'm excited for the holidays. Ugh. Not super ready for snow, but I am excited for some more like whimsy and decorations and presents and music, and we all know that starts like tomorrow. So see you later.